Hey everybody, thank you for being here. This is our DOK Refresher Course. So last month we were focused in our DDI meetings on looking for OTRs, opportunities to respond. This month we are going to continue to look for OTRs. We're also going to look for DOK to see what type of questioning and activity we are providing for our students at our school. So here's a wheel that we've been given many times. I know that as I was preparing lessons, every time I had this wheel right next to my computer, and I would, look for words that would inspire ideas for my classes as I prepared my lessons. Most of our questions, most of our activities live right in level 1, and it's just the way it works. When we're preparing a lesson, our first step is to get our students recalling, remembering, right? Reciting the information that we give them. But I wanted to remind you in this DOK training about the other levels. Research shows that when we move beyond asking them just to retell, recall, recite, that they will be more likely to retain what we are teaching them. And that is our goal, right? This is another DOK chart that I loved. It kind of shows the progression of our questioning and our activities. So we start with recall and reproduction. We move up to their basic application, being able to apply what they've learned. Then we move up to strategic thinking. And then we move up to the DOK 4 level, which is extended thinking, extended activities, things that really get them using the information we teach them in their lives. So I was trying to think of a fun way to help you remember our different levels of DOK. So I wanted to talk about reality TV. I tried and tried to get The Bachelor in here somewhere, and I couldn't make it work. I couldn't get The Bachelor correlated with DOK. But, I love The Bachelor. So anyway, we are going to talk about DOK 1. I want you to think about Jeopardy, about how we question our students, all right? Usually when we do activities, when we ask questions, when we prepare a lesson, these are multiple choice, short answer questions. We want them to give us the facts. We want them to remember the details that we have taught them, and we want them to be able to spit that out to us, right? So I want you to think about Jeopardy, about Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. These are important things. We want our students to be able to tell us what they have learned, but our goal is to get them to think deeper about what they are learning. So we're going to move on from Jeopardy and Who Wants to Be a Millionaire to Hell's Kitchen and Top Chef. So DOK2, most of what we see in breakout rooms is DOK2, right? We've already given them the information. We're asking them to use that information somehow. We want them to address a problem, to answer a question, to organize information, to accomplish a task. We want them to work by themselves or maybe with a partner. Some of the words that we see on our wheel for DOK2: to categorize, to infer, to organize, to estimate, to use context clues to tell us the meaning of something, or to summarize. All right? So take a look at what Amber Bundy did in her class. Okay, she asked her students to organize, there's one of those words from our chart again, to organize the steps to adding fractions. So she put the steps on one side, she put the definitions on the other, and they had to go in and figure out which of those steps came first. This is a really great DOK2 activity, taking it up a notch from just having them recall the steps or remember them, right? Good job, Mrs. Bundy. All right, DOK3. So I want you to think about The Apprentice, about Survivor, okay? We're taking it up another notch. So now we've given them the information. We've asked them to show us that they can use that information, but now we're going to challenge them. We want them to think critically. We want to be strategic about how they are answering their questions. We want them to address a problem, and we want them to actually accomplish a task, okay? They need to collaborate with each other. Okay, you guys can read what I put on the board there, but I want to share with you some of the words on the DOK wheel. We want them to revise, to investigate, hypothesize, to cite evidence, to draw conclusions, or to develop a logical argument. So when you're preparing your lessons, I really want you to think about how you can take some of those DOK2 activities and bring them up a notch. All right, let me show you an example. I love what Kendra did here. She asked her students to critique each other, to critique and assess. All right. So she gave them multiple whiteboards. She gave these instructions. You're gonna find a blank whiteboard. You're gonna paste your fable, to the whiteboard, and then you are gonna scroll through and find somebody else's writing that you are going to edit. Okay. This is so cool, guys. I love this because sometimes we think, oh, how can I do that in my class? I don't have time. I don't have resources. I'm not there. I can't hand them each a paper. There is nothing that we can't do virtually that we could or that we did do in the classroom. If you're having trouble coming up with ideas, please reach out to me, reach out to Jessica, reach out to anybody on your team. I remember my first year here just thinking, how can I do this? It's so difficult to transition from classroom to virtual. But I have learned, and I tell people all the time when they ask me, how do you do online education? There is nothing that we could do in the classroom that we can't figure out a way to do here and maybe even do better and more effectively. So please reach out if you have questions. But I love this idea. So now we've gotten our students to understand fables. Okay, they know what a fable is. They wrote their own fable. Now we're asking them to take it up a notch and to evaluate, to critique, and to assess somebody else's writing. This is such a great example. Thank you, Kendra, for sharing this with us. So let's talk about DOK4, okay? This is like Shark Tank. Have you guys seen that show? Okay, people, they develop their own product, and they bring it in front of this panel of experts, and they try to talk this panel into investing in their idea. So your students are going to develop a prototype. They're going to test their ideas. They're going to defend what they came up with. They're going to explain it and justify their reasoning and their results. I love this idea. I reached out to teachers to see who could give me some examples of what you are doing in your classrooms, and I got such an amazing example. So you can go ahead, you can pause this, read what is on the screen. If you need more time, you're welcome to do that. But I want to move on to what Julie did in her class. So she told me she's been working with her instructional coach on DOK. This is what her focus has been. And she wants every day that there's not an assigned checkpoint, she wants to do an extended activity. Okay, DOK4, let me read you these words. We design, we analyze, we create, prove, we critique, we synthesize, and we connect. So Julie had this idea. She asked her fifth graders to create and design a specific device that could reach objects if you were confined to your bed. But they could only use quadrilaterals. So take a look at what her students designed. She sent me a ton of student samples. I wish I could have shown them all. But they used quadrilaterals. They defended what they created. They got to share this with the other students. And this is such a good way to get our students thinking even higher. Okay, they know what a quadrilateral is. They took notes in their math journal. They could draw the quadrilateral in their breakout rooms. They might be able to organize their quadrilaterals by specific, into specific areas, by like rhombus or parallelogram, things like that. Then we're asking them to go a step beyond. Now they're going to create. They're going to design something using what they have learned already. This was an inspiring thing for me because I taught quadrilaterals and I thought, why didn't I do this with my students? I absolutely love it. I hope you guys can think of a way to do something like this in your classes this week. A couple of tips, okay? DOK levels don't have to be sequential. We don't have to start with level 1 and then move to level 2, although that's a good way to do it. But sometimes we can jump into a level 3 task right away, okay? Even if they don't even understand exactly why they're doing it. And then we go back and teach them what it is that we wanted them to learn, okay? Another thing to remember that all students can be using higher level questioning and activities in their learning. We can do this with preschoolers. We can do it with high school students. Okay, it's appropriate for all age levels. It's going to look different in different classes, but it is appropriate for all age levels. I want you to ask yourself, okay, now you're saying, okay, now what? This is a lot. I want you to ask yourself 3 things, okay, before you prepare your next lesson. What kinds of things do I want my students to be doing on a regular basis in my classroom? Do I want them to be investigating, creating? What do I want it to look like? All right. If my own child were participating, what would I want them to be doing? I think that all the time when I'm in watching your lessons, I'm like, wow, I want, and I have a child almost every age, I want my kids to see this. I've got to get Brecken in here and see Mrs. Bybee in her moon phase lessons because I know he's taking a test on it in school next week, and I love the way she presented it. So I want you to think about your own kids. If they were in your class, what would you want them to be doing? And then what's the most effective way to spend the time we have? We have limited time with these kids, so we need to use it wisely, okay? So my goals for you, I want you to spend 10 minutes. I tried to keep this short because I want you to spend 10 minutes incorporating a DOK 2, 3, or 4 question or activity into one lesson that you have planned for next week, okay? And then I want you to set a goal to use this every lesson. I want you to pull out your DOK chart. I want you to use it. Look at that chart and say, okay, I want my students to estimate today. So how am I going to incorporate that into my lesson? I want them to develop a logical argument. It can be used for science, for math, or for language arts. When Webb first created this DOK chart, he did it for math and science, but it did not take long to move into language arts because it is effective for all areas of instruction. The most important thing, you guys, is that students are thinking deeply on a daily basis, that we are pulling more from them and expecting more from them. I just want to thank you for being here. I'm excited to do DDIs this month and to see what you guys do with DOK. I've linked my sources if you want to read more about it. You're welcome to go to those sites. You can quickly Google DOK chart and find one that works for you or that you like. And if you have any questions about this training or anything else, please let me know. Hope you guys have a great weekend.